I'm currently 21, female, and this happened to me about 6 years ago when I was about 15 years old. I live in a relatively small town. For reference, there were about 120 kids in my graduating class in high school. The city is so tiny that there's not a lot of ground to cover, so it wasn't unusual for parents to let their teenagers wander around outside with their friends. My friend from a different town came to my house because we were going to see my school's musical later that night. We decided to go wander around outside until it was time to go. She was from a different town, unfamiliar with the area. So I suggested we go down to my local train tracks because there's this excellent cliff/overpass type thing where you can sit and watch the river. I had been to the train tracks with my friends many times before, and people my age usually hung out there. This was sometime in early March, so it was still quite cold where I lived. Even though it was chilly, I remember distinctly wearing flip-flops for some reason. This will be important later. The train tracks intersected a street in my town, which was quite close to my house, so this is where we entered the trenches. We were walking and spotted a middle-aged man alone and on the phone. We thought nothing of it and kept walking. We made it to the overpass and were sitting there just hanging out when we noticed the man we had passed earlier was slowly inching closer and closer and closer. We both saw this but decided not to panic since he might have been slowly making his way down the tracks. Maybe 5 minutes had passed and the man was getting closer and closer to us. At this point, we noticed that he is getting closer to us at an alarming rate. He's not continuously in motion. It's more like we see him standing still doing whatever, and then a minute later, he's standing even closer to us than he was prior. Now, he's close enough that we can make him out. He's within earshot and could quickly get to us if that was his goal. My friend and I are starting to get nervous. We're two teenage girls in the middle of the woods with no one around us other than this creepy man. I've watched a lot of investigation discoveries in my day, so I think it's best to promptly make my way out of there without creating chaos. I decided it would be a good idea to pull out my phone and pretend to talk to my mother as we walked back to the main road. My friend and I are calm, walking down the tracks while I have the phone up to my ear. I'm saying things like, "Yeah, we're at the tracks. We're on our way home." Just making shit up so this guy thinks my mom is aware of my exact location. There is a point where we have to walk directly past the man to make it to our destination. At this point, he opens his mouth and says clear as day, "I know you're not on the phone." My fight or flight kicks in at this point, and I'm terrified kicks in at this point, and I'm terrified. Until this moment, the creepy man had not directly said or done anything to make us think he was a direct threat. The situation was uncomfortable enough that my friend and I thought we better head out. When the man said these words to me, I quickly realized that the perceived threat was real and dangerous. As soon as my brain registered what he said, my friend and I ran. I was never one to enjoy physical activity, let alone running, but I could have won an Olympic medal that day. I ran so fast that my flip-flop broke, and I ran barefoot on the gravel that lined the tracks. I was so scared that if I looked back, I would see him running after me, so I didn't. When I finally began running out of steam, I quickly looked back and saw the man standing right where we had left him. He didn't run after us, but I couldn't shake the fear of turning around and seeing him chasing me. When we finally got to the main road, I quickly called my mom and told her what had happened. She was conveniently driving down the same road we were on and pulled up about 2 minutes later and took us home. My friend and I had never been so scared in our lives. I haven't been to those train tracks since, and to this day, I still think about the man who knew I wasn't on the phone, and his intentions